Good morning everybody, welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all doing great and welcome to this new video right here on Ethereum. We're going to do a full update. As always, we'll talk a little bit about next week, which I now realize I also wanted to do in my Bitcoin video, but I forgot. So we'll talk about next week a little bit more extensively in this video. We have some major news coming out next week in terms of economic data. I know, very exciting stuff. But we'll talk about that. That is going to matter, and then we'll talk about Ethereum short term and going into next week. I'm relatively, I'm a little bit more optimistic again on Ethereum today. But I have to say, I mean, if you watch these videos daily, you also know that I'm kind of going back and forth. Like yesterday, I was relatively negative and pessimistic, and I said, I think you should be prepared for kind of a spike down lower, maybe even a drop down again into 4,300. But yeah, I mean, it's the truth. I'm going back and forth, right? I'm quite uncertain about what to expect from Ethereum. And there's multiple things going on. I mean, first of all, if I take a look at the general market right now, I would say we're going to get a move up, right? Bitcoin is incredibly strong. We have a major Coinbase Bitcoin premium. And then, yes, Ethereum at this point of time is underperforming Bitcoin on the short term, but ultimately ETH BTC is still in an uptrend. So if that's going to drop down a little bit lower, we're also going to get that. So ETH BTC, so the relative strength of Ethereum, that's going to drop down into strong support levels where the value of Ethereum, which by the way has seen some great fundamental development, right? So it actually deserves to be bullish. Or at least it deserves a higher valuation than, you know, where it was at the start of the year. Then at some point of time, if Bitcoin goes up that much and Ethereum is still down there, then people are going to buy up Ethereum as well, right? So therefore, the general market circumstances for me are a reason to say, you know, I think we're going to rally. But then, and then other things as well. I mean, you see some massive rallies right now in the markets. That only happens if the market circumstances are good, right? And you only should, and you should only glance at the S&P 500 for 3 seconds, and you know that the general financial markets are bullish as well. But then, you know, so that's the positive side, and you know, there's two sides. You have the positive side and then the negative side. And the negative side is the technicals. Ethereum is incredibly weak technically, right? The moment we break above the 30-day and the 7-day rolling VWAP, a couple of days later, or at least a week later, we drop down below them without finding almost any support at them, right? So there's and the volume is decreasing. There's not a lot of momentum coming in. So it's those two things, and sometimes the general market weighs a little bit more for me, and sometimes the technicals and Ethereum specifically weighs a little bit for me. There's also no strong Ethereum narrative at this point of time. It's very much BNB, the Binance Smart Chain, that's doing well. So at this point of time, the general financial metrics matter more. I think Ethereum ultimately on the higher time frames is holding on well. We have strong support here as well, right? That's also something we should not forget. We have strong support. We have been able to hold that for the past week. So that's at least some sort of good news. You can actually see that we're gaining some stability. And then the general financial markets are doing great. So not only, you know, crypto, but also stocks. So that's why I think over the course of the next 24 hours, I think you need to be aware of some volatility that's possible, right? I mean, a spike like this is a possibility, especially from Sunday going into Monday. But ultimately, I do think we'll be able to remain relatively stable. And then it's waiting for that momentum to kick in. It could be next week. It could also be that we still have to wait 3 weeks. At this point of time, I don't see any evidence for it happening very soon, right? So I do think we'll be able to hold our own here. I do think we'll be able to hold support. I think it's going to be stability afterwards. And then next week, we have a couple of major news events. Tuesday, we have a Jerome Powell speech again and PMI data, so that can matter as well. And then on Thursday, we have GDP data. And then on Friday, we have the PCE price index inflation rate data. So a lot of data. I'll still keep you updated on that throughout the week, so don't worry too much about that right now. Enjoy your Sunday. Take care and bye.